So with the 2021 NBA season coming up very soon, I decided now was as good of a time as any to start discussing every single team before the season starts. And I decided it made most sense to go in the order from the worst teams to the best teams, like my own order, and like predicting like the best and worst teams this upcoming year. Right now I'm at the number 22, and at the number 22 spot I have the New Orleans Pelicans, meaning I think the New Orleans Pelicans will be the 22nd best team in the NBA this upcoming season. And I'll just be discussing how good I think the Pelicans will be, and I'll also just be discussing how good their players will do in my opinion this upcoming year, things like that. Before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to help me reach my goal of 1,500 subscribers, also drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments, and play that intro. To start the video off, I want to talk about the New Orleans Pelicans on the offensive side of the ball. If I'm being honest, I think they could be pretty solid on that side of the floor, as they do have two players in Brandon Ingram and Zion, who are guys who I think will average over 25 points per game. Then they have a bunch of supporting players who can score the ball at a pretty decent level and space the floor not terribly. They also will be led by Zion Williamson, who's clearly the best player on this team, as he had a really underrated season last year, averaging 27 points, shooting over 60% from the field, which is just absolutely crazy. It's crazy to think that Zion went from a guy who everyone was talking about to now a guy who people don't talk about much anymore. And I definitely think he's a superstar in the making. I think he's going to continue to make strides. He might not put up significantly better numbers than he did last year, because that would be pretty hard to do, but I do expect him to continue to take small leaps and other stuff that isn't as noticeable, such as like improving his passing, improving his defense, and hopefully improving his shooting ability. There's not much to say about Zion though. He's just an absolute beast. Next, I want to talk about Brandon Ingram, who's the second best player on this team. I think Ingram is also really underrated because no one was really talking about him last year, even though he averaged 24 points on really good efficiency. I definitely think he's a really good player and an all-star level player, and I think in the future he'll be a top 20 player in the NBA. I expect him to put up around 24 to 26 points a game. Nothing really more to say about him. I don't think he's going to take a ginormous leap or anything like that. I think he'll just stay solid and continue to play at the level he has been for the last 2 seasons. Next, I want to talk about Jonas Valanciunas, who the Pelicans traded for in the offseason. I definitely think getting him was a very good move, because although the fit might not be amazing since Jonas is not a floor spacing center, at the end of the day there is not many centers who can space the floor very well, and none of them are really attainable. So I felt like the Pelicans getting Valanciunas was the best they could do. And last season they had Steven Adams, who obviously isn't a threat at all on the perimeter. But the thing with Steven Adams is that he's not even a good post-up player at all, whereas Jonas Valanciunas is actually one of the best post-up players in the entire basketball association. So at least if you're not going to space the floor, at least you can have a guy who could just attack mismatches and things like that. I expect Jonas to average somewhere around 16 to 18 points and 12 rebounds. He's also one of the best rebounders in the league. Forgot to mention that. I definitely think he's going to help this team out a lot because he's just a really impactful player, even though his defense isn't amazing. When you looked at the Grizzlies, at times he was their most impactful player, even more than Ja Morant at times. So I definitely think he's going to be way more of an addition than Steven Adams and just make them way worse. Because also you have to remember, Zion literally had an all-time great season with Steven Adams on the floor. So I think he could definitely make it work if he work with Jonas Valanciunas, who is he's a really good mid-range shooter, and he sometimes can shoot the 3-ball. Next, I want to talk about Devontae Graham, who the Pelicans picked up in this year's offseason. Devontae might not be as good as you were thinking, because he hasn't had a season where he shot over 40% from the field, which is just absolutely terrible. Defenses know that if he's not shooting a 3-pointer, he's probably not going to make the shot, because he's actually one of the worst rim finishers in the whole NBA, and he doesn't really shoot that much mid-range shots, and when he does, he's not amazing at it. But I still think Devontae could be a good addition to this team, because because he's a guy who defenses respect from the 3-point line, and he's a guy who could just get on fire and probably even lead you in points in certain games. And I think he would really help the spacing for Zion and Brandon Ingram. He's also a really good passer, so I could definitely see him setting up Zion and Ingram. To be honest, I'm not too angry at the signing. I don't think it's that bad. I think they signed him for a good amount of money, and I think he's going to show that he deserved that money. I think he'll average somewhere around 15 points and 7 assists. Probably not that efficient, but at that point I guess you would have to live with it. I wish he could just be a point guard who just shoots threes, like only like proper threes, because he likes to force up a lot of shots. And I just hope he doesn't hijack the offense, because I feel like that could really negatively affect the team. Next, I want to talk about Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who was a guy who I think will be very important for this team next season. Definitely think he could be a great starter for this team, because last year in the games he started, he averaged nearly 20 points per game on crazy efficiency. And I think if he was given a starting role, he would average somewhere around 15 to 17 points while being a very good floor spacer. Honestly, I hope he starts this season, but even if he's coming off the bench, I think he could maybe even be in contention for the 6th Man of the Year award. Definitely expecting a huge leap out of Nickeil this season. I just hope he gets consistent play time. I think he'll be a huge factor to how good they will be, and with the amount of offensive talent this team has, I definitely think this is a team that could be somewhere around the 10th to at worst the 15th ranked offense this upcoming season, and I think that's pretty solid. The defensive side of the floor is where I have a lot of problems with this team, because their center and Jonas Valanciunas is an impactful player, and I think he'll help them on offense, but on defense he's a very slow player. He cannot guard the pick and roll, he can't close out to shooters and things like that. He could get attacked in the pick and roll or on mismatches and stuff, and he's not an amazing rim protector, so I don't think he's going to be great for them there. Devontae Graham is not a great defender at all, because he's just very short and he doesn't always give full effort. Brandon Ingram isn't a terrible defender, but he doesn't always give full effort, but I would say he's an average to maybe an above average defender. And then Zion isn't a great defender because of his lateral quickness, and he's just not good at rotations and things like that, but I would hope he could improve on it, because he has all the characteristics to be one of the best defenders in the league. So it makes no sense for him to be an actual liability on defense. At worst, he should be an above average defender. And the best defender on this team is probably Josh Hart, and I don't think that's a great sign for your team if he's the best defender, because he's just a good defender. He's not a great one or anything like that. I don't think this team will be that good on defense. I think they will rank somewhere around the 17th at best, like 17th best defense, and at worst like the 23rd ranked defense, which isn't absolutely horrible, but I don't think any of the moves they made them better on defense, because they lost Lonzo Ball and Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe, who were like 3 of their best defenders, and I think those guys are better on defense than Devontae Graham and Jonas Valanciunas. And to be honest, I think their defense will be the downfall of this team. To answer the question of why the New Orleans Pelicans are ranked the 22nd best team in the league this upcoming year by me, to be honest, it's simply because I haven't seen this team live up to expectations the last 2 years, because I was expecting to make the playoffs the last 2 years, or at least maybe make the play-in tournament, and they simply haven't done that. And this offseason, I'm not entirely sure whether or not they got better, because I think signing Devontae is a downgrade of Lonzo Ball, but I also think signing Jonas Valanciunas is an upgrade over Steven Adams. So I guess we'll just have to see how it works. But just because I say they're number 22 doesn't mean that I think they aren't capable of making the play-in tournament or even the playoffs, because injuries happen literally every year, and maybe the injuries could go in the Pelicans' favor. Obviously, we don't want injuries to happen, but injuries are going to happen every year. Teams are going to miss the playoffs because of injuries, or do worse because of injuries. And if you're a Pelicans fan, you would just hope it doesn't affect your team too negatively. So trust me, I'm not really sleeping on the Pelicans. I just question their defense, and I also just don't have too much trust in them, because they're also a very young team. But hopefully they make it, because I really like Zion Williamson, and I think Nickeil Alexander can break out. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know whether or not you think the Pelicans will make the playoffs. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to help me reach my goal of 1,500 subscribers. Also, drop a comment on this video, as I do respond to all of my comments. And I'm out.